this is an area that should you really be involved in, and if you are, how sure are you about the work that you're doing and the exposure that you're leaving your firm open to? Property is high in value, and therefore when claims happen, they tend to be quite high. It's where firms are exposing themselves to advice that really is probably should be given by someone else and not necessarily the firm, but that doesn't, absolve them of all responsibility to the client.
You've tried your best to support conveyancing practices and even 100% conveyancing practice, where a lot of other insurers have run away, and conveyancers have had it rough over the last years. Yes, as you say, with the stamp duty thing, the turnover was generally good, and most conveyancing firms worth their salt had a good couple of few months whilst that was on. But I mean, in terms of new claims types, we had the escalating ground rents. We had the property development side where there was deposits paid in to help with the funding of the developments, and the developers went bust. Are things changing for conveyancers? Are they going to get any easier, or do we think they are going to remain at the kind of levels they're at?
So conveyancers have always generated a fair proportion of the claims pre the demise of SIF, post the demise of SIF. Property is high in value, and therefore when claims happen, they tend to be quite high. And there's a lot of transactions. I mean, I was amazed at just how many mortgage transactions there were, per month. I couldn't believe it. When you read the press around stamp duty holiday and that kind of thing. So, look, there's a lot of activity, and that is quite often, certainly in the 3, 4, 5 partner firms, they will be conveyancing will be a big part of their income, and we like to think that we're looking at a risk, and if it's doing 1% conveyancing, we're understanding exactly why it's doing 1%. We'd much prefer a firm to be doing 100% of conveyancing in the same way we want them to specialise regardless of what the activity is. So it's still a big consideration. There aren't many insurers piling into this market to write conveyancers. The reason being that they have claims, and they're not having necessarily less claims at the moment, but the premium that they're generating is more. There's more equilibrium there. So
I mean, it's hard from your side, isn't it? Because
we won't be reducing premiums on conveyances.
I mean, fully understandable. But I mean, from your side, I can understand your frustration at times with conveyancers, because you are one of only very few markets that will write the 1 to 4 partners who do more than 30% conveyancing. And I think that often I have a lot of conversations with my clients to say they shouldn't be the fall guys. If Pen weren't writing in this space, you would have not many other options to go to. And I do think you get a bad rub of the grain and on that, because understandably, people don't want to write in this space because it's the one that's costing them the most money. I mean, conveyancing as a whole, it's quite a wide area, isn't it? Obviously, you've got remortgage, you've got commercial property space on leases and whatever else. I know one of your biggest areas of worry was the property development. In fact, a lot of the subjectivities around when you do put people on cover is property development stuff and investment, property development investment stuff. Is that still one of the biggest concerns for you?
It's less of a concern than it was a few years ago, but we still want to know about it. And We put the subjectivities on because we're trying to manage what people are doing. The SRA have been out probably as early as 2016, maybe even before that, as to the issues around that. And I think a lot of that was missed by a lot of the profession because they got involved in stuff that they shouldn't have. There's no two bones about it. It's not maybe they shouldn't have, they definitely should not have been involved in it. And it's caused a lot of problems for probably all insurers, regardless of whether you're involved in conveyancing knowingly or otherwise. So it's an area, anything that we put down on a subjectivity, a bit like anything that we put down in the proposal form, we're interested because we've had an experience, tends to be a negative experience. And so, we want to bring it to the profession's attention.
You've got a different access, haven't you, in the main for property development work?
But again, that's to bring attention to the fact that, this is an area that should you really be involved in? And if you are, how sure are you about the work that you're doing and the exposure that you're leaving your firm open to if it isn't what you think it is? And so, those subjectivities on property and the excess are here because we don't want to be.
I mean, I fully understand your concerns. I suppose one question is in terms of firms thinking about, asking their brokers to approach Pen. If they've done property development work in the past, is it just going to be a no? Or we're not talking about a nil exposure, but we're just talking about not a huge exposure.
There's lots of different variations of property development work. Some are working for the developer, some are working for the sellers, some are working for the purchasers. So it's there's lots of work around it. It's the collective, unregulated collective investment schemes. It's the it's where firms are exposing themselves to advice that really probably should be given by someone else and not necessarily the firm, but that doesn't absolve them of all responsibility to the client, and goes back to the earlier questions around the width of the cover.
Coverex, we've got you covered.